We're very happy to have him here. He's going to come up and speak. Thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome, Mr. Murad Dibbini.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. For those who are here, you guys got some materials, so you got some goodies. If you guys, and for those who are on Zoom, you'll get a chance to actually join our database, and the reason for that is so you can get invitations to information sessions and things like that. So we have a bunch of different events throughout the year, and some of them are related to doing similar presentations to what I'm doing, and some are just about pharmacy in general. We'll bring alumni and faculty to talk about the profession. And so for those of you who are here, if you scan the barcode on the brochure and fill it out, that'll actually get you into our database, and then you could, again, you'll start getting emails about future events and deadlines and things like that, especially if you have interest in pharmacy. If you decide you don't want to, you can always opt out. So just something to keep in mind. And again, for those of you who are on Zoom, there is a QR code that you'll have near the end of the presentation where you could snap a photo of it and fill it out. So, and then I'll leave some extra materials, maybe with somebody to just pass them out for those who want. So, but again, my name is Murad Dibbini. I'm the Director of Enrollment at USC School of Pharmacy. I've been there now for about 4.5 years. I, been in higher ed for over 20 years, but being at the School of Pharmacy at USC has been a great. I've enjoyed it for the last, again, 4.5 years. The students are great. The program is great. The opportunities for students are endless, and I think that's what my goal is today, is just to talk to you about the school, and then also the profession. I know some of you may be thinking of going into different professions, which is great, but maybe give you an opportunity to think about pharmacy, see if that's something that might interest you down the road. But by show of hands real quick, how many of you are going to a 4-year school soon, let's say by next year? Anybody here? A couple of you? Some of you in your first year here, or your first year? Cool. So you got a couple of years, great. All right, well, let's go to the next slide. So the first thing I wanted to welcome. You can grab a little packet pin and webcam cover. So the first thing I want to talk about was the degree. What a PharmD. So I work with the Doctor of Pharmacy program, which is the PharmD, and I think it's important for just folks to be aware of what's out there with this degree, what you can do, because we all know, we all have our wonderful pharmacists at Walgreens, at Rite Aid, at CVS, and they're extremely important, right? They're accessible. You can go in. It's almost like you can ask them anything related to your health, and they're going to know the answer. And those are extremely important people, and a lot of students continue to still go in that direction. But what this is showing you is that the PharmD can take you to a whole lot of different places. So not only are you doing your, the practice roles that we just talked about, but you can go into biopharmaceutical company and work for industry. And that has grown more and more over the last few years. So we had 38 of our graduates last year go to work for just companies like Pfizer, like Amgen, like Allergan, Genentech. Those folks are looking for PharmDs. Why? Because you're the medication expert. You have the mindset that they're looking for, right? They're trying to develop drugs, and they're trying to put them on a shelf at one of these pharmacies, right? And so at PharmD, you get that training. You get the drug development training, you get the regulatory science training, regulatory affairs, how do you regulate drugs, all the way until they get put on a shelf. And so I think that's just something that these biopharmaceuticals are really looking for. And so because of that, PharmDs are being picked up big time by these companies. And not only that, they're paying big bucks. So, when we talk about that, like the average salary for a pharmacist in California is $161,000. But these companies are paying more. We know graduates who are getting jobs with these companies paying big bucks. So just something to keep in mind. Technology. You can go work in technology with a PharmD. Believe it or not, digital health is important. building software for pharmacists is important. We have alumni who work for software companies who are out there building software for pharmacists. Who better than a PharmD, right? They know exactly what pharmacists need. So there's jobs out there working for the government. We have internships with the CDC, right? So students can work in the summer with the CDC or with the FDA. We have alumni who are working with the FDA. So those are opportunities for students with a PharmD. Community impact roles, right? So you can work in academia. If you want to teach, you can get a job with a PharmD. You can go teach anywhere, or you can work in community service roles, things like that. And then non-traditionals, there's a whole lot. And so if you go to the next slide, actually, you can kind of get an idea. This is giving you the list of jobs that students plan to do when they graduated. This is from our last graduating class. So you can see community is still up there, right? Look how many went in the hospital. You can go work in a hospital as a pharmacist. You can work in the ER. You can work in the ICU, work alongside physicians and nurses and occupational therapists. But there's opportunity to work in the hospital, and more students are doing that. You can get residency. A lot of our students, about 40% of our students are going into residency right after they graduate. Don't have to, but you can. And then when you start going down the list, you could start seeing that more than 1/3 of our graduates are personalizing their own path. They're going into non-traditional pharmacy roles. And you could see what that looks like, managed care consulting. I talked about government, nursing homes, pharmacoeconomics, informatics, home care, associate managers. So, and that's unique to USC. There's a lot of pharmacy schools out there who are very clinical, who are going to train you to go into community, but not many of them can train you to be this diverse. But USC can. And a lot of that is because our alumni networks is worldwide. They're all over the place. They work in so many different areas of pharmacy, and they're always coming back to support students and give them the opportunity to do something unique in pharmacy. Next slide, yeah. And so a little bit about USC. We are the #1 private PharmD program in the nation, #1 private research PharmD program in the nation. When we talk about USC, excellence, we always strive for excellence, right? So part of that is the exams, right? You don't need the PCAT to apply. So the PCAT's the pre-exam for pharmacy school. You don't need that. We don't require that. But when you do graduate, you need the NAPLEX and you need the CPJE if you're gonna practice in California. But with the NAPLEX, that's the national exam. The 2021 group, 2022 results are not in, but 2021 group, 97% of those students passed it first time. So almost every student of our graduating class that took it passed it, except for a couple. And then the CPJE is the California exam. It's a little bit more challenging. There's a lot of state laws and stuff like that. We were about a little over 70% above the national average, still top in California. So you can see that we're preparing students for these exams. What we do is the first 3 years of our program is all didactic. 4th year, you're out on rotations. You actually start rotations a couple weeks into the program, like your first year, but the 4th year is just rotations after rotation, so you're getting all the experience. But then we bring you back the last month before graduation, so you can then actually review all the things that you're going to need to know for these exams. So we do that on purpose, so that way you go into the exam feeling confident. And then a big factor for us is the Trojan network. That alumni network is huge. I talked about it a little bit, but it is really something that they're always giving back. They become mentors for our students. You get an alumni mentor actually going into the program. And these are just folks who are there to make sure that you are provided the support, help guide you, make sure you have the resources that you need to be successful. So, when we talk about the network, you can go to the next slide, you can see that it is worldwide. This is just a small map of the options and the opportunities for our students. And so because of that, you could see that, when we talk about those rotations in that 4th year, when you're out there doing, you can go somewhere, and that's also unique to you. So you can take a rotation in Hong Kong, you can go to Dublin, you can go to Dubai. These are all spots where our students are actually going during their API rotations just to get that global experience. And you know, I always like to share the story about our associate dean. So my boss, you know, we were getting ready to meet like this. She's right outside the door. She's on the phone. She gets off the phone, but it was a pretty cool conversation. She comes in. I'm like, what was that all about? She's like, oh, I just got off the phone with my former colleagues in Egypt. And I said, oh, what was that about? She's like, well, I just hooked up one of our students and they're going there this summer to do an entire internship. Just like that, you know, and that's all about the connections and the alumni network and what we have to offer our students. But that stuff happens. And we can go to the next slide. So we talked a little bit about excellence when we, you know, something that we strive for, but we also strive for innovation. You know, when USC School of Pharmacy, we're big on trying to, you know, trying to figure out what this profession needs, what society needs, and create programs for that. You know, we launched the first PharmD program in the nation. You know, we launched the first clinical pharmacy residency program in the nation. And then there's all of these different dual degrees that we launched. So PharmD MBA, PharmD PhD, all of these PharmD JD, all of these degrees where students can really, I guess, differentiate themselves. So, you know, a lot of PharmDs out there that are graduating, but if you want something unique and special, you can do an area concentration, you can do one of these dual degrees. But again, when we talk about USC, we're always trying to figure out what's the next program? What do we need to create so, you know, we can support pharmacy as a profession, support society. So these are the kind of things that we always are looking to do. And then a little bit about our curriculum. It is a 4-year program, you know, and that's something to kind of keep in mind and do your research. We do, you know, there's a lot of schools who are 3 years, a lot of accelerated programs, things like that. When I get to the admission side, you'll notice that we require bachelor's. There's a lot of schools that don't require the bachelor's degree. You know, so that's you know, folks like yourself could look into, but we do require the bachelor's degree. We are a 4-year program. And the reason why I want to mention that is when we talk about big hospitals like Cedars-Sinai, Children's Hospital LA, they will tell us, they'll come back, the top execs at these places will come back and say, we were only hiring USC students. And that's because they're well prepared, they've got their bachelor's, they're more mature, they're ready to really get into the program. And then when they're in the program, they're getting trained. They're getting trained the way these hospitals want these students. And so that's just kind of something to kind of keep in mind. But the 4-year program, and what's nice about a 4-year program is that you get your full-time summers off. So our students are working 40+ hours a week. You know, by the time your first semester is coming to a close, you're going to start getting jobs after jobs thrown at you, right? They're like, oh, Verdugo Hospital, USC is hiring 5 pharmacists, 5 interns, you know, Children's Hospital hiring 5 interns. And then you just start applying. And for the most part, you're not lucky, you will likely get a job. About 90% of our students are working. And faculty encourage it. They're telling the students, hey, go get a job, get that experience. It's going to be important. And so what happens is a lot of them will go, they'll get their jobs. They work, part-time, obviously during the academic year, 8 to 16 hours, but then they're working 40+ in the summers. So imagine mid-May to mid-August, just working 5 days a week, over 40 hours. And so you get a whole lot of experience, but you're also making money, right? So that's just kind of something that's the benefit of 4-year. We talked a little about personalizing your own path, you know, unique to USC, right? We're providing opportunities for students to specialize in something that they want, do an area of concentration, a dual degree, even a specialty elective. And then we talked a little bit about the clinical experience, right? The introductory pharmacy practice experience. So the first 3 years you're doing your IPPEs. And the thing about those is, you know, you get to start those within weeks of when you start the program. You're going rotation once a week. We'll send you to a hospital. We'll send you to a community pharmacy. You just start getting that experience right away. And then with the APPEs, you start at the end of your 3rd year. You're out on 6-week rotations, just pretty much doing different kind of rotations. And the cool thing about your APPEs is you start picking and choosing what you want depending on your interests, because by that point you're in your 4th year. And then mentorship. You get 14 assigned mentorship. I said you mentioned that you get like an alumni mentor. Well, you get a faculty mentor, you get an upperclassman mentor, you get all of these different mentors that are going to support you throughout the program. And students will tell you that their favorite part about USC is the fact that the upperclassmen care. Like it's not a competitive environment. You know, US people will say, oh, USC is, oh, everybody's trying to compete to be the best. And that's not the case. When upperclassmen, this is what I hear from students, when upperclassmen contact them before and after an exam, just to make sure they're doing okay, that they prepped right, and that they're doing okay after the exam, that just gives you an idea of what kind of collaboration that our students have. You know, everybody's working together, everybody's trying to graduate together, and our graduation rate, if you look on our website over the last 3 years, is over 95%. So the 180 we bring in, 175 are graduating together. You know, you come in, we're getting you out. You know, there's enough support to get you out. And some of those who don't make it, it's not like they're dropping out. There's always going to be a couple that drop out. But what they do is they just need more time. There's, you know, those 5, for example, maybe 2 drop out, but the 3 just need an extra year. So that's just something that we really, you know, take seriously. Student organization opportunities, professional student, national organizations. You go to these big national conferences. We just had a group of go out there, finish second place in a presentation that they did. In our professional education, you go to the next slide. But that's important to us because it's not just, you know, learning alongside a pharmacist. Our program is built to make sure that you are connecting with folks in other health professions. You know, our students tell us they interacted with all of these different folks at some point during their program. And we have a new partnership with Kaiser School of Medicine, where our students interact with their MD students. And then we also have a partnership with Western's nursing program, our students interacting with nursing, and all 3 of them work together to just, again, to learn what a pharmacist's role when you start getting into that environment. So then the admissions requirement. So the bachelor's degree I mentioned is required. And then a minimum 3.0 GPA and prereq GPA. So I'll show you a list of the prereq GPAs here, what courses they are. You know, as long as you have to be at least academically prepared to. This program is pretty challenging. It's not going to be like undergrad. You know, you are going to be challenged, and so we want to obviously make sure that students who do come into the program are prepared for this program. So 3.0 is important. If you're borderline 2.9, but you know that you're strong in other areas, then give it a shot. I'd say, hey, reach out to me and apply, and I'll help you out. Official train. So the other thing is the prereqs. I'm going to show you here in a bit. You do have to have a C or higher in all of those. If you have a C-, retake it. Anything below, you know, a C, you got to retake it. Official transcripts, 3 letters, and then there's the mandatory interview. We have both in person and virtual. You guys are all local, come in person. Trust me, you'll have a good experience. We try to make our interview, you know, at least it's an event. It's a half-day event. You come, you have a meal, you sit with faculty, current students, alumni. You go through a campus tour. You go through Q&A sessions with faculty, alumni, current students, and then you do your 2-on-1 interview. So there's just it's an event, and so something that you'll, I think, appreciate when you come to do that. And then the application. So the application for us will open up and this is really for anybody. You go to PharmCast to apply to any pharmacy school. So pharmcast.org. So if you end up deciding to pursue pharmacy and you want to apply to 4 schools, you go to PharmCast and you just check the 4 schools and you fill out the application, and then you go fill out the supplemental ones that each school may have. Like for us, it's just an extra 2 questions or something. And then you make sure you know what their priority deadlines are. So everybody has a priority deadline and has a final deadline. All materials go to PharmCast. So it's not like you're applying to USC School of Pharmacy. You don't send us anything. Send everything to PharmCast. They put everything together and then they send it to us. So that's the way that works for pharmacy. And then these are the prereqs. The only course that has to be done at a 4-year is biochemistry. the rest can be done here, can be done at any community college. And for the faculty, it doesn't matter, does not matter where you take them. So, I just want you to know that if you have an opportunity, if you're like, I don't know, for the bio, you're probably taking a lot of these already. If you're able to get these done here, do it. If you're able to get them done, when you transfer to a 4-year school, make sure you at least get this one done there. But otherwise, the rest can be done here, and make sure you get the C's or higher, but obviously you want to get at least the 3.0 in these classes. And then this is the conversation about the finances, right? So obviously we do talk about it as an investment in your career and in the rest of your life. So, our tuition per year is a little over 62 this year. It is a 4-year program. So, you ask yourself, how do I make this a reality for me? Obviously we encourage students to look for outside scholarships. We have lists of outside scholarships we provide students. And, some scholarships you can get are 500, some are 10,000. It all adds up. It all helps. And then we have our own institutional scholarships, and that number has gone up significantly just in the 3-4 years I've been there. It's been one of my goals is to get the funding up. So, talking to the management, talk to alumni, get donors, get more people to provide funding for the students. It went up from maybe 300,000-400,000 in formees to over 3.5 million this year. In just a short period of time. So, students are earning funds to help offset some of this cost. Financial aid and loans, whether you go to medical school, pharmacy school, probably going to have to be prepared to take out financial aid and loans, right? So that's something that a lot of students are going to do. And then I mentioned with a 4-year program, you get to work. You get to work full time in the summers. And so our students are telling us they're working and earning anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 a year. It's a pretty good amount of money that they use to offset costs, offset living expenses. So, so your investment, this is ways to help cover that. And then the next slide, you'll see it's about the value of your investments. And at USC, you always want to justify paying for something, right? If I'm going to pay for something, what am I going to get out of it? And we do believe that, what you get out of USC is something that will carry you throughout your career, throughout your lifetime. With all of the things that we talked about, like the wide exposure to the pharmacy world, mentorship, the network, professional development, leadership, preparing for residency, fellowship, all of this is about the value of what you get. And then if you get to your next slide, we talk about the return, right? I mentioned what the average salary is for California. If you go residency or right away, you're probably not going to make that. But if you go right into the field, to the profession, you'll definitely make that. You'll make that 6 figures right away. You become a lifetime member of the chosen family. And so many times I hear from alumni that they have earned their job going from one job to the next through the alumni network by having connections and just knowing people and people calling them and saying, hey, we're looking for somebody to do this or that. And it's typically usually alumni that just work together to help each other out. And then job placement growth, a lot of that and that rapid career growth, a lot of that's related to the training, right, that you get. So you get all this training at USC that's going to just help you grow in your career and the connections that you get. So it's just, there's just a lot of the return on your investment is going to be well worth it when you're done. It really will be. And so this is the opportunities for students. So, we talked about the work experience, talked a little about the student support services, right? The fact that most students who come in are going to get out. You get into our program, as long as you're focused, you're asking questions, you're asking for help, you're working with your peers and collaborating, you'll get out, you'll graduate, you'll get that degree. We have career services opportunities, folks who are helping you get that job or get that internship and look for ways to do it. We had an internship fair just last week where we had almost 30 or 40 different employers come to talk to our pharmacy students, from different parts of the pharmacy profession. And DEI is we have an initiative that's important to us. Project Wellness, balance is important. We know you're going to be in that, in hitting the books hard. So we try to figure out ways and try to help you make sure you have balance, so you have a little fun, so you hang out with friends and family, because you're gonna need that outlet every so often. So, and the student involvement, student orgs, the affinity groups, mentorship, and community service is big for us. So you can go to the next slide. Community service is huge for us. We can't talk about enough of it because of how important it is. We're in the heart of LA. And so we are always trying to figure out how we give back. How do we support our community? Everybody has different communities, right? So, there's folks who are in South Central trying to give back to their community. The Armenian population, they're trying to give back to their community. There's a Korean population, they're in Koreatown trying to give back to their community. And how do they do that? By putting health fairs together, going out there doing free screening for their communities, making sure they come out and do blood pressure, do vaccine, do flu shots, things like that, just to provide opportunities for folks out there who probably wouldn't get it. And then the pandemic was big, right? I mean, everybody went virtual, schools went virtual, the world went virtual, and we went virtual as far as the classroom, and not on rotations, not at the hospitals, not at these community settings. Our students were at the forefront. They did not leave. They stayed out there in person and did their rotations. Mayor Garcetti called us and said, "Hey, I need help. How am I gonna vaccinate Los Angeles? 4 million people. How do I vaccinate?" Dr. Richard Dang, Dr. Edith Mirzayan, all of these faculty members got together, contacted alumni, all of our students. We took over Dodger Stadium parking lot, and we vaccinated by now over 2 million people. Half of LA was vaccinated by USC. That was our way of giving back. There's no other school in the country that did what we did during that pandemic. But that's just how serious it was for us, and we continue to think along those lines, right? How do we give back? How do we do that? We're opening up a pharmacy in South Central LA right now because there is no access to pharmacies down there. We're probably losing money by doing that, but because of the community and that we want to serve, we're doing it. So it's just a big commitment for us. So, all right. So this barcode is for the virtual folks. So for those of you who are on Zoom, if you scan that, you can enter your information just to learn more and just to be in our database. And then again, gives you an opportunity to just get invited to some of our events. So like, for example, our next information session is November 18th. It's both in person or virtual. Come in person, guys. Come in. But you can come to the health science campus, come to our campus and just get a tour, get to meet students in person, faculty in person, those folks that are part of the institution. So, and for those who aren't able to make it, you can do it virtual just like this. So, and that's it. There's me. There's my email. I actually have some cards here I can leave for everybody, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just I was telling Sona 2 years ago, I connected with the president of the pre-pharmacy here at GCC. Him and I did a presentation for that club virtually, obviously at that time, and he and I stayed connected over the next 2 years. He was just kind of checking in with me, taking the classes, asking me, would this be good? Would that be good? And he came to our October 14th interview, and I just saw him yesterday at Northridge, and he got accepted. So, it's definitely, it's a great story. I always like to bring it up, especially because he's connected to GCC. And I thought it was he was super excited yesterday, just to connect and he had a lot of great advice for the CSUN students, that, hey, apply early, and stay connected especially if you have interest, so I'm here, to really just stay connected with you all if you have interest in pharmacy. Not, no worries. I hope at least you get something out of this. If you have interest in pharmacy, then stay in touch, please. I can leave my cards for those who want.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Dibbini. That was very informative. I learned a lot about pharmacy myself. I didn't ever really know much, but I'm glad I got to learn a lot, and I hope the folks on Zoom also learned a lot as well. You guys can go ahead and we'll take questions here too if you guys have any, but you guys can go ahead and put your questions in the chat, or you can also turn your microphone on and ask if you would like to do that too. We'll wait oh yeah, you're welcome. And I'm sorry, they're saying thank you to you. Yeah, you guys can go ahead and put your questions in the chat or raise your hand. We'll give it a few minutes and then we'll start taking questions. Thanks, guys. Let's see. Oh yeah, do you guys have questions here? No, all right. Oh, Sona, could you move it back to the QR code slide? Yeah. Yes, well, yeah, there you go.
And again, something may pop up later, so you can grab one of my cards on the way out.
Thank you.
Sure,
But it's overall involving USC's education. That's okay to ask?
sure.
Yeah, so I'm actually thinking of applying to their computer science program. Have you heard good things about their CS program?
So I work primarily with just the doctor of pharmacy. So I honestly, just being at USC would feel pretty confident that their program is going to be a pretty good, darn good one, if not one of the best. You know, I just feel like that USC education is really trying to set you up for success, no matter what area, what field that you plan to go into. So I think if you're considering USC, I would encourage you to take it serious and go for it, because if you can get in, it's only going to set you up for so many opportunities. Like I've been at several institutions and I hear from folks and more related to pharmacy, but like my boss came from like University of Colorado, right? Another top program, but she's blown away of what USC can offer students. There's just resources. You got to keep in mind that we're a private school, right? And all the public, the UCs, all those schools are state funded, given money by the government. Not us. We're playing with the big boys with our own money.
Yeah.
And yet we're able to offer endless opportunities and resources to students to do almost whatever it is that they want, because it's just it's an environment that's always trying to figure out how to be the best, how to be, we talk about excellence. I think it's that runs across USC no matter what.
Thank you so much.
We actually have two people in the chat who have questions. Sevak is asking which microbiology course is accepted by USC, because there's introductory microbio and general microbio.
So if you go to our website, that's a great question. And the one thing I can tell you is if you go to our website and you go to the admissions page, you'll see on the right course equivalencies. You can select Glendale Community College and it'll tell you the exact course that we accept here. And also on that list, you could see all the schools in California. You could see all the big schools in across the nation. And so it's neat because you could really print it out, use it as a checklist and start checking off all of the courses that you need to take. So if that doesn't work, shoot me an email and I can always help you. I'll look at it for you. I'll send you some thoughts and ideas. If there's courses that won't work, I have some other options that may work that are more accelerated programs, classes that the faculty will accept. But take a look at the course equivalency page under USC. And then actually go back to the go to the prereq page, that one with the courses. I think that QR code right here. Yes, move that. Scan that QR code. I think that takes you to the course equivalency page. And so then you can, and then you would just on the top, you'll have all of the course equivalency, like the alphabet. Just click on G and you'll get to Glendale. And it'll tell you exactly which course.
All right, thank you. That was a beneficial answer. Shantae is asking, what is the acceptance rate for the USC pharmacy school?
So, we get a little over 500 applications every year, and our class this last year was 176. So it gives you an idea of what we brought in about, of the 500 people who applied, we brought in about 300 to interview. So, so a little more than half will get the interview, and then about almost half, a little more than half of that group will end up coming to us.
It's like around the 35% acceptance rate, so 176 students and then 500, so around the 35% acceptance rate.
Yeah. That would be, I mean, we'll accept more. It's probably closer to 50, because not everybody will come, right? So I think we'll accept of the 300 we bring in the interview, we'll accept not all of them, but we'll accept, I think it's like 57 or 60%. And then about of that group, some of them decide to go elsewhere, some of them decide to go to med school, things like that.
All right, thank you. Emily is asking, let's say someone doesn't get in the first year, can they reapply again?
You can, yep. And that happens. We have a lot of students who reapply. And the thing is, that's why I always encourage people to stay in touch with me, because I'll be pretty transparent. If I see your grades and I'm looking at them, I'll say, hey, USC's not gonna, you should probably look elsewhere. And I've had to do that before. And I also know pharmacy folks, directors at other schools, and I can help in guiding them maybe at a place that might work for them. But if I think that there's a possibility, I'm probably gonna give you the advice and guidance to make sure that you're heading in the right direction so you can get in. And I mentioned that student that from here for the last 2 years we were in touch, and I'm easily accessible. My email, you email me, you're gonna get an email back. I'm somebody who's going to help and respond back to you and help you. And so if you end up, pursuing pharmacy, stay in touch and I'll help guide you. And if I think that you have a good shot, then I'm going to advocate for you. I'll be in that room with the faculty saying, hey, I was in touch with this person, and here's why I think they should be admitted, and here's why I think they should be here. So you have at least an advocate in that room.
All right, thank you. If you guys have any more questions, you go ahead and type them, or else we'll probably end the meeting pretty soon. I actually had a question myself.
Sure.
So because I know for medical school, I know it's the first 2 years is lecture based, and then the last 2 is more rotation based. I think you kind of mentioned it. Is that kind of how it is at pharmacy too?
Yeah, so we do the first 3 years, but it's almost like 2 3/4, but the first 3 years, but near the end of your 3rd year is when you could start your full-time rotations. So it's for full 2.5 years, and then that last semester of your 3rd year, you only go till about March. So you go halfway through that semester, and that's all didactic, but you start your rotations early anyway. So we have students, P1s, who just started in mid-August. By mid-September, they were doing rotations once a week. So you start that part of that IPI, right? You start that practical experience right away. But by the time you get to the end of your 3rd year, you're now doing full-time rotations, 6 weeks at a time, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, that kind of thing. So you'll have classroom time for the first 3 years, and then that 4th year is all rotations.
What are some examples of rotations, types of rotations?
I mean, you can work, obviously, the most basic is to work at a private pharmacy, right? That's some of the ones that there's probably plenty of those. Hospitals, a lot of hospitals, you can work in the ER. There's rotations in different departments of every hospital. Big hospitals, popular ones, Cedars and those kinds of ones. So you can get jobs, and then those lead to jobs, and then when you get to the specialty ones, that's when you start looking at specialty ones in the industry that we talked about. There's, especially when you get to your happy ones. I talked about the global ones. You can go to Alaska. There's a lot of students who go to Alaska. there's just I know it's interesting, but I'm always signing these, Alaskan forms for students to go up there because they want to do rotation up there, but
Yeah.
you can get that experience, so yeah, it just depends on what kind, and you can follow one of the associate deans around if you have interest in like academia, there's just different opportunities that you can do, yeah. That's a good question. I don't know how that is. I've thought about it myself and don't know how that is covered. I don't know if your financial aid covers it. So because at that point, there's a lot of, students will end up, there's a tuition cost, but then there's students who take out funding for living and so forth. So there's obviously going to be, maybe that's the funding that they use to cover, living expenses and those kinds of things, because they're gonna pay rent here, you probably just pay rent there, but I would assume there are opportunities or already relationships or partnerships with folks and people and living situations out there that would help at least make sure you have a place.
I actually also have a question. I know that like in cosmetics, there's a lot of chemists that are working with it. How would you see that? Like, would you say that pharmaceutical market caters to that as well? Like in the sense of like working in the lab and developing formulas.
Research is huge, at USC, especially like school of pharmacy, we're one of the biggest research pharmacy schools in the country. So like, if you've ever been to our building, we're on a 7th floor building, there's labs on every corner and they're run by faculty. So we have a great number of students that are doing research with faculty. So you could be a PharmD student doing research, and some of the examples, like I know, like, Dr. Daryl Davies, he does research with alcohol, how that impacts, well-being and so forth. Our dean, our own dean, he has his lab on the 7th floor. And he relates it to plastic and the impact of plastic on men like us, the testosterone and stuff. He has, and then we have my favorite one is we have Dr. Clay Wayne. He takes feces and he fungus and he takes it to space and he tries to use it to get rid of waste. There's just some really cool different kinds of research that's happening that you could be a part of as a student. So, and then remember, we have the PharmD PhD. So we have it as an area of concentration and research, or you can do the PharmD PhD if you have real interest in doing research. Like there are students who want to get into infectious diseases and really figure out how they can help cure cancer, right? They're in labs trying to do that kind of stuff. And so you can get your PharmD, have the clinical background, and then be in a lab and have the research background and work in a clinical setting, and then go in a lab setting to help develop drugs, figure out cures for your patients, and that's something that one of our associate dean does, Dr. Von Berger. So there's definitely, that kind of opportunity for students, and it's pretty big.
Okay, actually, someone else has a question. Sevak is asking, by any chance, does USC or any other pharm school offer a PharmD MD dual program?
Not that I'm aware of. The closest one that we offer was a PharmD JD. So if you wanted to go into law, so have your pharmacy degree and then get your law degree, that's the closest one that I can think of. PharmD PhD, obviously I mentioned, but I don't know of one PharmD MD. And the thing that I even students who have considered PharmD JD, it's not that I talk them out of it, but students who have the interest realize after the first semester that it's just too much. It's really challenging. Like most students will do the PharmD MBA or PharmD HCDA or PharmD Reg Sci, right? All of these different dual degrees that are primarily master's programs. The PharmD PhD is doable at USC. And a lot of students will go through it because you're working with the same faculty. It's a longer program. You have time to get your courses in. And so it works out. The PharmD MD would be, that would be, and I don't know of any school that has it. And I would imagine it would be pretty difficult to do.
Yeah. I was actually curious about, like, could you explain the PharmD JD program? Because I'm kind of,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so I think from what I remember, if somebody had told me there are only like 4 pharmacists in the state of California who also are JDs, right? So these are folks who have their PharmD background, but are also practicing law. And so imagine folks who are like pharmacists who get sued.
Mhm.
You want to get a PharmD JD as your lawyer, right? Because they know the pharmacy background, they know the law background, they're going to be able to help advise you and guide you in that. And so, you know, the PharmD JD program at USC, the way it would work is your first full year would be a pharmacy. The second full year would be with Gold, you know, USC Gold, which is our law school. Then the years 3, 4, 5, and 6, it's likely going to take you 6 years. We'll be back with pharmacy to finish your courses and then finish your any courses you need with Gold or using your electives. So, you know, as you get to the pharmacy program, year 2, you get like 1 or 2 electives. Year 3, you get like 3 or 4 electives. You use those classes for these other programs. That's like the MBA, similar to the MBA one. Like I said, most people I know with the PharmD JD that people have told me they finished their PharmD first, went to JD because of just, you know, how challenging it can be. But we have it, you know, for those who want to try it. So, yeah, take care. Yeah, you too.
No problem, sir.
So,
I see. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, I think we have one more. Are the dual programs still 4 years or are they longer?
So some of the ones like the healthcare decision, the masters in healthcare decision analysis, the PharmD, MS, HCDA, the PharmD, MS in regulatory science, a lot of the ones that are related to pharmacy can be done in the 4 years. You know, because they're already kind of tied into our programs. You could take those courses as part of your electives and be able to get that done. Some of them, like the PharmD MBA, will be 5 years. The PharmD MS in gerontology. So if you have interest in studying the aging process, working with older folks, things like that, that would take you 4.5 years. PharmD global medicine, 4.5 years. So they're all going to be between 4.5 if it's one of the master's programs. When you start getting into the doctorates, the PhD, the JD, those are going to start pushing 6 to 7 years.
I see. Thank you. We have another question. How long would it take to do the PharmD MBA? Sorry, how long would it take to do the PharmD MBA degree compared to the Pharm Law one? So I guess compared to the JD one.
Yeah, so the PharmD MBA will be 5, and the PharmD JD would be minimum 6, and then could be longer depending on how well you're getting through that program.
Okay. And then after earning your bachelor's, it does take 4 years in the program? Yeah. I think
Yes,
you
yeah,
mentioned it's a 4-year program.
yeah, it is a 4-year program. What's that?
You actually accept the AP scores.
We do accept AP scores. So if you have, you know, any AP score of those general classes, these ones up here with a 3 or higher, will accept at least a class worth. So, for example, if you have for calculus, keep in mind it's calculus BC. So if you took calculus BC, we'll give you and you have a 3 or higher, we'll give you the entire calculus requirement done. But if you have AB, you still need the second part. If you have a stats, a 3 or higher, you'll get all the stats. If you have, like, for example, the biology one, and you have a 3 or higher, we'll give you the first part. You still need the second part, but you at least get 1 semester's worth of biology completed. So, yeah, definitely, that's a good look there.
Some of the other doctor programs, like the dental schools, they don't accept AP scores, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, we do, and we actually dropped it down to 3 too. It used to be 4 higher, so yeah.
Nina is asking, is there an entrance exam like the MCAT?
Yeah, so the PCAT, it's not required. The PCAT is not required for USC.
For other schools, it some sort of requirement?
Honestly, more and more schools have dropped the PCAT. I think it's the minority to require it now. I think most schools have dropped it.
Shante is asking, is the event on November 18th that you mentioned going to be similar to this meeting?
It will be similar, but I'm not just the only one there. So you'll actually connect with students. You will have, usually we have 1 or 2 current students. We have a faculty member, we have sometimes an alumni there, so you'll actually get probably more specific answers because they know more than I do about the program. They're in it. They're teaching it, they graduated from it, so you get better probably answers about specifics that you may have. So I'd still encourage you to check it out.
All right, thank you. We'll probably go ahead and conclude the meeting now. Thank you guys so much for joining. Again, a huge thank you to Mr. Dibbini for all your information today and taking the time to answer people's questions. I'm sure everyone appreciates it a lot.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming.